and Tropes podcast where books and friendships collide. I'm Becca.
And I'm Keri, and we're two friends who love to talk about books. Today, we are talking about chapters 21 through 30 of Reckless by Lauren Roberts.
Yep, so we're going to move on right to our one-sentence summaries for chapters 21 through 30. If you haven't read Powerless or Reckless up to chapters 21 through 30, we'll be here when you're done. Chapter 21. Paedyn gets rescued by her long-lost friends before learning what happened to the rest of the resistance after the bowl and explaining her time afterwards as well.
Chapter 22. Lenny takes Paedyn and their prisoner Kai to where the percentages have been hiding out while they think of a plan.
Chapter 23. Kai tries to figure out information while being tied up by the resistance before being woken up by something being thrown over his head and then waking up to Paedyn panicking and learning who stole them away.
Chapter 24. Kitt is being counseled by no other than Callum. Excuse me? But Kitt is hesitant to take his newest suggestion as he puts a small box between them and reminds him of the 3 Bs.
Chapter 25. Paedyn and Kai play a guessing game before getting serious and then working on escaping the prison cell to the sewer being flushed out and getting stuck before professing confessions in the face of death.
Chapter 26. As the two face death yet again, Paedyn discovers a way out and Kai pushes the Great out for their freedom. But before he is able to make it, Kai slowly sinks to his death as he thinks of Paedyn.
Chapter 27. Paedyn forces herself to save Kai before he betrays her and chains her to him so she can't escape again.
Chapter 28. Kai's betrayal has fairly earned him the silent treatment, and they have to pretend to be a couple as they walk down the street looking for a bed and a bath.
Chapter 29. Paedyn and Kai fight to get into the inn before getting a bath and sleep and pretending again.
Chapter 30. After a night of pretending in order to stay warm, they have to hurry out of their inn because they didn't pay, and in order to evade their captors, they must pretend to be lovers. Which brings us to our meet cutes. So we did have one I'm going to mention. We did technically see Raphael again, who is the ringleader guy, but we're not going to give him. He's rude, apparently. So we're going to push him away. Anyways, we met Lenny's mom, whose name is Meredith. So she just, as you know, if you've looked at our episodes, we did Divine Rivals, and she reminded me a little bit of Marisol. Right? That was her name. Yeah. Marisol. I was questioning myself there. It's been a while. But that she's just taking everyone in and anyone who needs it, and she's giving them a safe place. So I loved her immediately. We learned that she is tall and has short red hair like Lenny. So cute. And we learned that she has been helping harbor the percentages / mixes. So we love Meredith. Not Meredith Grey. Not to be confused with Meredith Grey. We do love Meredith Grey. Not to be confused. I really wonder if Lauren Roberts just had to throw that in. If she's a Grey's Anatomy fan. I hope so.
I'm unsure. Well, now we're going to move on to our quotables, and this is where we go through the plot and we introduce the quotes and parts that captured our attention and we want to expand on because we love them or we hate them.
All right. So we'll start with chapters 21 through 22, calling the section The Captors. So Lenny is back. It was so good to see him and hear his nickname again. I have a confession to the listeners. I wasn't surprised by this at all because I saw that we get a Lenny chapter or a Lenny bonus chapter of some sort. So
yeah,
really?
I think it's a bonus chapter.
I think so.
I think so. From what I understand, there are different bonus chapters based, like, depending on which issue you get, which I have an issue with personally.
That should be a Between the Lines episode.
We can throw that in with the epigraphs and prologues being part of the book.
We should.
But yeah, no, I think it's the Barnes and Noble edition that gives you the Lenny bonus chapter. It's kind of like, from what I understand, it's like at the end of Powerless, we got Kai's little bonus chapter from like 5 years ago. I think it's something similar to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you read the bonus chapter yet?
I haven't, no. I haven't read any of them.
Any of them?
Because I didn't, in my Kindle version, there wasn't any bonus chapters.
I got Kai's. Wait, are you talking about for Reckless?
Yeah, for
Well,
Reckless.
what we need to do is go around to Barnes & Nobles and Target. And
yeah, we may need to go. If anybody wants to send us those bonus chapters, hit me up. I'd love to
then
read them.
can save our gas.
Yes.
All right, so Lenny is back, and Paedyn is being rescued, but Kai thinks they're being ambushed, which is super funny. Because I like had a feeling. I was like, oh, it's got to be like somebody that Paedyn knows because she wasn't scared. Yeah, I was like,
at the end of the
it?
chapter. Interesting. Okay. I didn't think that.
She
That's
seemed
good.
too calm.
That's interesting. Okay. Because I was like, I had no idea what was happening.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Lenny, he says, I didn't know if I'd ever see you again, at least not before the rest of Ilya saw you. Which I said it right the first time. Boom.
Good job.
May or may not have been practicing last night. That's okay. We also got to see Lena and Finn again, which was super great. We love the callbacks to Powerless, and I love that both us and the readers, us and Paedyn, we're all readers here, we're reminded that she isn't alone and that she does have friends. Like, she went through that whole period in the desert indoor feeling like she's alone, and she's not. We have Lenny, and granted, she didn't know that yet, so that's okay. But we get a huge info dump of what has happened outside of Paedyn and Kai's POV here that has happened since the bowl. So we're going to go over that really quickly. But the resistance is done and over. The info that they had was wrong, including numbers of Imperials, which, how was that wrong? I'm suspicious of Callum, but we'll talk about that later. The king has Callum and Mira suspicious. I don't understand. Again, we'll talk about that in detail later. Any resistance members that had not died in the bowl are on the run, but it is very few. And there are rumors that King Kitt has gone mad, which we are seeing from his POV, and that's a valid rumor. The people of Ilya are restless, and the queen is not doing well, and it's only a matter of time, which sends Paedyn into a thought spiral about if Kai said goodbye, if he made her a promise, etc., etc., saying the prince's well-being is not my problem, although apparently she thinks at her butt. We also learn a lot more info that I'm sure Becca will be sharing in Magical Moments, so we won't spend too long on that here. Yes. But we do learn that it's more than just ordinaries and the elite and their percentages, and it's as dangerous for them as it is for the ordinaries because their powers are so low. Like I said, I'm excited to hear what you have to say, Becca, and what you share about that in Magical Moments. So yeah, we won't sit on that too long.
So I'm curious what your thoughts are here, because this is, so for our listeners, like, I've read Reckless before, right? So I am going through this with a little bit more of a fine-tooth comb the second read than I did on the first read. Why do you think we were given Lenny and Finn and Lena again instead of, like, not given them again? Like, why do you think, what was their purpose in the story?
I think, like I said, that Paedyn won't feel so alone in the world. Also, to give us that info dump a little bit, so we get to see, like, the point of view from, like, another character. So we get a lot of info that Kai and Paedyn didn't see directly. So we get that. They're also on the run, so we get a little bit more, like, backstory. We learn about the percentages. Like, we just learned a lot from them. So I think they were to, like, push the info in.
Yeah. So that's something that I have a problem with, is I don't feel like this portion of the story moved the story along. No. I feel like it was here to give us information. And I would agree. I said this, I think, last episode, but I like when we learn information in a indirect way. And I felt like this was very, hey, we're going to stop at this camp. You're going to learn all of this information. Like, literally, it's info from Paedyn. And then we go to Kai's POV and it's info. And it's like, I think the one benefit that we got here was like Kai had access to Lenny's hyper ability, which allowed him to hear Paedyn talk about killing his father, which I think was a really good thing. But outside of that, I really struggled with this because I felt like this was an info dump that we could have gotten in a different way. It didn't move the story along because they literally get captured again. It's like they get kidnapped and they go, and then they get kidnapped again. So I don't know. I'm glad we saw them again. I liked them as characters, but I could have done without it and learned that information another way.
Yeah. I feel like she brought them in to give us like a trusted source of information, whereas like if we learned that info from like a random citizen in Door, it wouldn't have been as impactful or kind of boring.
Right. And I agree with that. I think, and I don't even know if it's from a random citizen in Door that I would expect it. I would have preferred the resistance information earlier. Like when Paedyn was in the house beforehand, she was thinking through all those things, and we basically got a recap of what happened. I would have loved a line that was like, yeah, and based on the rumors that I've been hearing around Ilya, like the resistance is over, blah, 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 blah. So I've got to go. And like that be part of her motivation than just like only running away from Kai. I don't know. I mean, percentages, I don't think this is really a spoiler, but percentages don't really play a part later in the book. So maybe they play a bigger part in Fearless and like we're just waiting for that. But I don't know. I felt like that was, I feel like there was another way we could have gotten that information.
Interesting. Maybe it's to set up that like Kai and Paedyn won't be the first like couple elite versus ordinary together.
That's possible. That's a good point.
And what like, oh gosh, sorry. Like what their children would be.
So here's a question though. If elites and ordinaries produce percentages and only elites can produce elites, how was Abigail an ordinary? Because her parents were both elites.
That's a good point. I mean, do we know what Paedyn's mom was?
I don't think so.
So that could be setting up that too. Maybe she is a percentage.
Dun dun dun. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, the Abigail thing really threw me off.
I mean, that's confusing in general, how two elites created an ordinary.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, well,
Maybe
anyways, that's just my 2 cents about I'm not crazy about how we learned all that.
Well, you're allowed to share your opinion because it's
you.
our podcast. We can make rules.
Exactly.
So after learning about all of this, we get this quote from Paedyn. But it's the enforcer who holds my attention. He studies them like a puzzle, deciphering the percentage of power each of them possesses. So I think this specific section, we're getting to see Kai think about them, but also go deeper, like his lack of knowledge of the kingdom and the people that it holds, and the kingdom that he's lived in, and the secrets that the king has hidden, which I think is crucial for his character growth in the future. So I think him learning about this and thinking through all of this helps him further understand that the king is actually a bad guy, and like he held a lot of secrets from him, because we can assume that the king knew about percentages because he seems to know about everything. And we're not talking about King Kitt. I'm talking about old king, dead king.
Yeah, King the Father.
King the Father. King the Brute.
No, I agree. I think the percentages was a good, I think that was important.
Yeah. Well, I think that specific section where Kai is like processing it all was really important for his character growth later on. I'm assuming we'll get that again, just like further, like he's like, oh crap, like my dad was horrible, like really horrible.
Yeah. Which I think he already kind of knows.
Oh yeah, he knows. But I think it's just like further like
proving the point.
He killed Adina for no reason. He's killing ordinaries, but they're not necessarily making elites weaker. Like they've been living among us this whole time. Like blah blah blah. He's processing. He's learning. We're here for it. But now we're gonna go to chapters 23 and 25, and I'm calling this the captives because now they're both captives. So Lenny and team come up with a plan to trade Kai for Paedyn's freedom, which Kai and us readers know will just not work. I was like, no, guys, this is not gonna work. But
I know.
Kai has another back and forth with his feelings for Paedyn, of course. And he says it's supposed to be terrifying, still thinking of her as something I'm trying to deserve, still deeming her worthy of my desire, but she's not. No matter what has already happened between us, she's my prisoner and my mission. She is nothing to me. And that's what I tell myself as I watch her fall asleep.
As I watch her fall asleep.
Ugh, Boyd's got it bad. Ugh. He's like trying to tell himself, like, I'm not in love with her, but I so am. He's so silly.
He's so silly. What a silly goose.
What a silly goose, Kai. He probably wouldn't appreciate us calling him a silly goose. That's
Nah,
okay.
he probably wouldn't.
He is.
He's a fictional character.
It's okay. But instead of him just being tied up by himself, he is now tied up to her. So they both have now been taken captive and they've been dumped into a cell, and Kai is feeling ding 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 powerless. And we get, though without an elite to draw from, I'm just as powerless as the ordinaries. So.
Which he's been that for like the whole book basically at this point.
But that, I think that tells us where they are. Like, they're not in Ilya. So
that's a good point.
Like, he's able to kind of understand where he is a little bit because he's trying to pull all the powers, but he's like,
I can't. Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
But once Paedyn starts to come to and realizes their situation, she starts to panic again. And Kai immediately helps her calm down, which is so sweet. He literally is always there to help her, like, take a deep breath and relax and, like, it's okay. Like, we're here. It's okay. So they realize they've been captured by Raphael. Like I said, the ringleader guy, who is the, like, leader of the fighting ring. I don't know if that's actually his the appropriate title, ringleader, but
yeah, I think so.
He was making money off of Paedyn,
yes,
and wants to cash her in for even more money because of the price that's on her head.
Mm-hmm.
And that means that everything that he and the king, we're still talking about Kai and the king have built, including his reputation, will be gone, and he will be absolutely useless to Kitt, which is like everything he's worked for in his life. So he is like, I gotta get out of here. I'm not gonna go back to Ilya as a prisoner. I will also remind you that both when Kai is a captive of Paedyn and when they're captives together, they are still flirting. The banter was bantering. Again, 10 out of 10, Lauren. Thank you for the constant banter.
Yes.
Their whole being tied up together thing is the epitome of an amazing forced proximity trope. So I am here for it. They are stuck in the cell together. They are tied up together. Clap, clap. Thank you, Lauren. It wasn't unique, but I enjoyed it. That's all I'll say.
Okay.
But again, once they're in the cell, Kai helps Paedyn take her mind off of where they are and what they're doing by playing a game. So instead of her starting to spiral, he's able to get her to stop and kind of get her to take a deep breath and be like, okay, let's distract you because your mind's taking you places that you shouldn't be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, before, so you talked about like how they woke up and she started to panic.
Mm-hmm.
We get this quote that says, Paedyn, I say softly, the taste of her name is intoxicating on my tongue. Paedyn, are you listening to me? Like, he's trying so hard to ground her in her panic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this goes back to like basically the whole thing we talked about in Powerless is like he's so good at knowing exactly what she needs when she needs it. And he's like crunched up. I just imagine him like crunched up in the other side of the cell, and she's like all stretched out with all the room in the world. And like, first of all, bold plan, because what if she decided to turn around and like turn her head and see that wasn't the case? But no, I think there's that. He's like so patient and just like wants to comfort her, but also the taste of her name is intoxicating on my tongue. Like he like just saying her name is like he's like also kind of grounding himself too, which I think is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm. And he says her name. Just so. Then she's like realizing how much he's caring. And she says it's startling, him caring. Didn't he vow to never do that again? Then later on she says, but this isn't caring, is it? No, he's using me to escape and save his reputation. I'm a means to an end. Which, not a great vibe. This sets up the betrayal and makes that even worse because she's already thinking that he's using her.
Mm-hmm.
Which we all know. Kind of, but not really. He loves her. Anyways, when they're playing their game, I just laugh so hard with the stone on the other side of the cell that she couldn't see. This reminded me so much of something my husband would do if we were playing this game. Like, such a stinker. But then we get this quote from Paedyn. At my weakest, I wish for him, and at my strongest, I wish I could say it wasn't the same. Then she asks him if he regrets any of what has happened between them, and he's quiet for so long that she falls asleep. So, their escape plan. It's going to take advantage of the sewer being flushed out, and I don't know why Raphael would tell them this. They're both very smart individuals, and he should know this. But they still think they are going to die, even at the beginning of the plan. Paedyn is panicking and is pulling at rocks. This reminds me of that scene in Tangled where her and Flynn Rider were in the like cave thing and they're trying to get out and she's like
and they're following her hair.
Yeah. That was the vibe. It was like the hair was going to the grate or something. Love that.
Flower gleam and glow.
We should put that in social media.
Yes.
Like Kai and Paedyn here. But Kai is super calm, or like appearing to be super calm from Paedyn's point of view, and tries to get her to calm down and accept their fate. And says her name again. And she tells him not to say her name if he thinks it might be the last time. And he says, your name seems like a good word to die with on my lips. And then as the water's rising, like they're feeling like they're gonna die, he says, I don't regret it. I don't regret you or what was between us, and I don't regret kissing you on the roof. But I know I'll regret what I have to do to you for the rest of my life. And they are out here just confessing, and the tunnel fills with water, and they are pulling each other close, and she whispers near his lips, pretend. And then we get a reckless quote, which I thought would be very like, because I'm like talking about their cuteness, and then boom, reckless. But it says, I am recklessness incarnate until the very end. Now, is this foreshadowing? Is this just good writing that is making me melt? Is this just a point to the title? Who knows? I don't care. This was one of the best sets of chapters I think I read.
What do you think it would be foreshadowing? If it was foreshadowing, what do you think?
That they will be reckless together until they die.
Interesting. Okay.
Or they died together or something.
Are you talking at the end of Reckless or at the end of Fearless?
Fearless.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're thinking we're all the way.
Yeah.
Way down.
Way down the road.
Okay. Gotcha.
When is this book coming out? January? February?
April.
Lordy.
April 2025.
It's too long. Anyways. Now, as promised, chapter 24. Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Kitt and Callum. What? Okay.
What?
I have a confession. I did not catch this on my first read, that this was Callum that he was talking to in this chapter. So when I was going to do the outline, I was like, what do you mean? I was like, Callum? Like,
what
Callum?
does this mean?
I went into my Kindle and I was like, I went into Powerless and I was like, Callum? This is the same one, right? Like, that was his name. Like, I was double checking. So I was half asleep when first reading this. So that's my defense. But I did catch it now. And I am shocked. Like, I am shook. I have been shook to my core since I did this outline.
Yeah.
So Callum is, I guess, an advisor to King Kitt here. And Kitt trusts him? That's like big news. Because we thought at first that he was just a resistance member, like the leader, hidden away in the shadows. I don't know if we are actually told that. Besides him being the resistance leader, we were told that. But like, if we just were made to assume that, along with Paedyn. So I don't know what's happening. I need more Kitt chapters, and I never thought I'd say that. Just so I can understand. I know.
I think 31 is a Kitt chapter. So we should get some answers.
I need answers because this has had me racking my brain. And I'm suspicious of Callum. Incredibly suspicious of Callum.
Okay.
But here are my theories. I know you can't tell me. It's okay. But I just want it down for the record. And if our listeners, if you have any theories too, send them our way. Because I want to know. I love theories.
Make sure to send them with spoilers.
Yeah.
Don't send us theories. Yeah. Send us fearless theories in the subject line.
Yes. So, okay. My theories are, I think either the previous king and Callum had an understanding, or that the current king and him now do. But I'm leaning more towards the first one, because the second one, I think there would be a little bit more distrust from Kitt. Like, I think we would have gotten some dialogue, like, I don't know if I still trust him, but he seems to like completely trust him, which is a huge red flag. I got the minions with the little red thing, like the police sirens on their head. That's how I feel. Anyways, theory 2, I think Callum is a two-faced stinky liar pants, and I hate him. This is not a theory. This is just me sharing my thoughts and feelings, but he's the worst, and I didn't like him very much in Powerless. I thought his plan was stupid, and I thought it wasn't a good plan. Okay. And because of this, I think Callum is a double agent.
Okay.
And
just explain that a little bit more.
I think he's working for both. But he's got like the Kingdom of Ilya and the resistance members. Okay. But I think he's taking the king's side more, and I don't know why. Okay. Because obviously his plan was a bad one. Right. And he didn't die. I don't know. There are so many questions. I really want to go back and read the bull scene.
He also did not say that the healers were wrong. Which was the big thing that Paedyn wanted him to say.
Yep. He's sketchy. Yep. He's super sketchy. And here's also something. I want to know more about Mira's mom. Callum's wife, we're assuming. Because in Powerless, he said that Mira was gone taking care of her mom. We've sat on this sentence quite a bit in our Powerless coverage. But now it popped up in my brain again because I want to know what that means. So who is her mom? Does she work in the kingdom? Is she the queen? Is she someone in the... I don't know. I just don't know who she is, and I want to know who her mom is, because it's got to be somebody important.
Right. I wonder if we've met her mom already. Could it be the queen? I don't think it's the queen.
I don't think it is either.
I don't know. I have a feeling we have met.
I don't know.
It's not Meredith.
I know.
It's definitely not Meredith.
I just need to know.
And it could be maybe Gail.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really make a lot of sense.
It has to be connected with A, I feel like. Maybe not. Whoever A is. I want to know who Mira's mom is, and I want to know who the heck is A.
Again, if you looked at the beginning of the book.
I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I don't know. I don't know who it is. I just don't know who it is. Callum's sketchy, and I need to know, because I think whoever, and I'm probably sitting on this too much, but I feel like she will answer a lot of questions that I have.
The mom. Interesting. Okay.
Or she will give me some closure. But I'm probably sitting on her too much. I'm probably focusing far too much on that.
So
I don't know.
There is a theory about Callum. Do you want to hear it now, or do you want to hear it in the next episode?
I'll hear it now.
Okay. So there's a theory about Callum. I don't think this spoils anything. But there's a theory about Callum. He's a mind reader, and we know that. But there's a theory that he's also a controller. He has two powers, kind of like Kitt with the fire and water. There's a theory that he's a controller and a mind reader. So he used his controller powers in the bowl scene situation and is potentially also using his controller powers with Kitt right now.
Wouldn't he just like make him do his plan?
I don't know.
Which we don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
But I'm confused about her mom, about Callum, what he's up to.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that theory. I've also heard a theory that like Callum is her biological dad.
Interesting. Okay.
And that Callum or like is a relation of her. Could Callum or Mira's mom be also Paedyn's mom?
Maybe.
Anyways, we're gonna stop theorizing because I could sit here forever. I could really sit here forever. And I'm excited for Kitt's chapters this week. And I never thought I'd say that because normally I'm like,
proud
really
of you.
annoyed. Like, get out of here, Kitt. Nobody cares.
We only have 2 more weeks until the end of the book.
Work to do on our next book.
Okay, so moving away from Kitt, I don't have section titles at all. I think I literally just I typed in chapter 26 and then just kept typing and
That's
never
good.
stopped. So we're just gonna go through all 5 chapters.
Let's do it.
Okay. So Paedyn, we're back in the tunnel and the sewer is being flushed out. And Paedyn and Kai are kissing each other desperately as they're literally drowning. Not the figurative drowning that Kai always talks about, but they're literally drowning. And then they see the grate at the top and Paedyn is struggling to undo it before they drown. Kai is pushing against the grate and we get, quote, "I cannot let her die like this." He doesn't want her to die. He doesn't really think of himself. He thinks of her and saves her and doesn't fight to keep his head above water. He fights to keep her head above water. So he doesn't think she feels the same way at all. And he's thinking as he's drowning, quote, "She's probably halfway to a shadow she can slink into." So he thinks like she's gone, like she doesn't care about him, which can we just talk about, like, yes, we have this forced proximity trope, and yes, we have this enemies to lovers trope, but we also have this miscommunication trope, and this is probably one of my least favorite tropes ever.
Yeah.
So, anyways, yeah. So Paedyn gets out of the grate and realizes that Kai isn't right next to her, and she's thinking about doing the exact things that Kai was thinking about doing, was thinking that she was going to do, right? So she's thinking about going into the shadows and like running away because he's the only one who would ever be able to find her, which kind of sweet.
Yeah.
But she's almost proving him correct. And she's debating her freedom and then realizes it's wrong and dives into the water to save him again. So when they come out, Paedyn starts worrying about Kai because he's not breathing. He's not doing anything. He's basically dying next to her, which I want to bring up again. She watched her father die. She watched Adina die, which were the 2 most important people in her life. And now she's literally sitting here watching Kai die too, who is arguably the 3rd most important person in her life. Like, what is she going to do, right? So she tries to save him and she almost cries in relief when he starts coughing and breathing, and he says, quote, "I'm shocked you even bothered to try." Which, like, boy, come on.
I mean, when she's like thinking, maybe I should run, those thoughts are a little valid.
Yeah,
it's
I guess.
She came through.
She did. So then Paedyn starts thinking about all the things they said and did when they thought they were going to die, and we're just going to relive them. Keri, you did such a good job summarizing them before. We're going to relive them again.
I can talk about them all day. Let's do it.
So Kai says, "Your name seems like a good one to die with on my lips." Kai says, quote, "I don't regret it. I don't regret you or what was between us, and I don't regret christening you on that roof, but I know that I'll regret what I'll have to do to you for the rest of my life."
Also, that quote, I forgot to say that earlier. Like, he's like hurrying to say it. Like, he is just feverishly saying it, which is
Right?
I love that.
Ugh.
I love those confessions.
Yes. And then Paedyn goes, quote, I regret not doing it right. I regret not being what I'm supposed to be. Talking about, I regret not falling in love with you, right? Like that there was like that barrier between us because she was an ordinary. And she regrets not being what I'm supposed to be. She regrets that she's not an elite. That like that's what she's supposed to be in order to be like, I guess, quote, worthy of him. And Kai, our guy, says, quote, I'm sorry you have to be anything at all. And then Paedyn in her inner monologue says, quote, my heart aches to be reunited with the piece he's stolen from me. I am reckless incarnate until the very end. And then she whispers, pretend, before they start kissing. So all of those things, we just relived them again, which
10 out of 10.
Chef's kiss. So Kai is like, are we going to talk about it? Which, good job, Kai. Way to be intentional there. So Paedyn then gets super nervous and awkward and they start talking and it goes somewhat back to normal where they start talking about surviving and death, of course, which is like what they talk about because always surviving death. And Kai asks Paedyn if they're going to talk about it and says, quote, the only mistake was not doing it sooner, talking about the kiss and the grate before they died. He slowly inches closer and says, quote, the mistake was tasting you, knowing you likely won't let me do it again. And Paedyn is so distracted and thinks about kissing him again since he has his fingers in her hair and is leaning close and she's saying she won't kiss him again, but she's like leaning close with every word and he's so cocky because he knows she's entranced and is watching her and then kisses her slightly. And then all I felt was rage. Kai, my guy, what are you doing?
Guy's the worst right now.
The rage that I felt, I cannot even like explain to you. I am pretty sure I threw my Kindle across the couch when I read this. I wasn't on a couch, I was on a bed in a hotel room in Chicago. So I'm pretty sure I threw my Kindle across the room. But okay.
Did you want to just like reach in the book and be like,
yes, I wanted to just slap him upside the head.
freaking Kai, you're the worst.
Okay, so let's talk about this. Kai distracted Paedyn to fulfill his mission. He is 100% choosing Kitt in this moment because he just made the declarations of a dead man, but he still decided to chain them together. He even refers to her as his mission, saying, quote, I'm ensuring my mission makes it back to Ilya. So he also slips on one of his masks, the one of nonchalance, which is my least favorite. I think it's the worst mask because the opposite of love is not hate. And I think I've said this before on the podcast, but the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. And this is what Kai is doing right now. But it irritates me because he's dissociating again with Paedyn. Like we talked about this before with the kiss on the rooftop. He loves that it's dark because he's like, I can pretend that this is not happening. I can pretend that it's not her, whatever. And here he's dissociating by calling her a mission and like not leaning into the feelings that he just declared because he thought he was going to die, which we all know is the truth. So like, bro, what are you doing? The worst part of this whole thing, though, is he planned it before they even left the prison cell. Like he grabbed the chains. So he was thinking so far ahead. Like the betrayal and thinking that far ahead, like we're getting out of this to survive and I'm going to make sure she can't leave again. Like the betrayal. And Paedyn feels dumb and stupid and revokes Kai's right to say her name, which we just were like oohing and ahhing over the fact that he said her name. He like losing the right to say someone's name is a big like slap in the face. Like names are so personal and they're intimate and like it's meant for that one person, right? So like nicknames are so personal. So he called her Pay in the grate too, or in the sewer too, and like so now he lost Pay, he lost Paedyn, and all she is Gray, his mission. Which like good for her to take that away because like I think that really solidifies the betrayal that she feels, but also just betrayal. So I'm really mad that we didn't get the scene from Kai's perspective because I understand why we didn't. I want to know what he was thinking in this time. And I think it's probably smart that we don't, because it further betrays, it confirmed the betrayal from the reader's perspective.
Yep.
So, like, I felt betrayed just like Paedyn felt betrayed, right? But I would have loved to see Kai's perspective on this. Like, what was he thinking? Why did he do it? All those things. And now we do get a couple confirmations in the next chapter that it wasn't all a ploy. We get, quote, "I wish I didn't need her like I need this mission." And, quote, "It's exhausting fighting every impulse to explain why I did this, why I had to do this. My life is not my own, and for that reason, she can never be mine." So he knows and feels guilty about this, and he knows that he broke all of her trust that they had slowly rebuilt again over the past couple days. Like, if you think about it, like, he almost killed her at the very beginning of the book, and now we're like a couple weeks out from that, and like they're slowly starting to trust each other again, and he just totally like ripped the floor out from under her, which is so sad. So let's just take a moment of
Catch me
silence.
outside, Kai.
So now they're chained together, and I do want to point out that this chain is about 3 feet-ish long. Now, we did get confirmation from Lauren Roberts in an interview she did, I don't know when. This is from a while back. It was like at a bookstore. I think it was at like a Barnes and Noble. It was like a literal like question and answer portion thing, whatever. But she did confirm that it was about 3 feet a yard long. Now, I said in my outline that I'm only going to say this once, and I'm pretty sure I said it 3 more times in the rest of the outline. So I'm only going to explain my frustration here. I'm going to explain it, and then I'm probably going to keep bringing it up. So I'm not even going to say that. But I have a really hard time picturing a lot of what happens in the next few chapters with only a yard of chain between them.
Me too.
So I'm probably gonna point this out later multiple times, but I really struggled with this while I was reading, and it got to the point where like it almost got distracting because I was trying to figure out how things were working. We also don't know, like, is the chain on, for example, is it on her left leg and his left leg? Is it on her left leg and his right leg? Is it on vice versa, on her right leg and his left leg, on her right leg and his right leg? Like, we just don't know. And I think there are some things that'll come up like we haven't gotten to yet that like will just make this, I think, really awkward and like potentially impossible. But we'll get there. I do have to say, though, this was an interesting take on the forced proximity that I wasn't expecting. Like, I haven't read a book that like does this yet. Now, there may be books that do this, and I'm sure there are, but this was a really cool thing that was a continuation of the forced proximity trope that we've basically had the whole book, but that put it in a different way, which I thought was kind of cool. So they go through a door, and Kai decides that they need a way to conceal the chain. So Paedyn must steal a skirt thing. And Paedyn is being a pain, just like we all would be in this situation, because she's still betrayed. Like, she basically was like giving into her feelings for this guy, and he just like, anyways, okay.
She just saved his life, and then he betrayed her.
I know.
Kai.
I'm upset. I am unsure and unwell. And upset. So Kai says, quote, "You are," I say, taking a breath before continuing, "an unbelievably difficult creature." And I laughed here because this is something that I can imagine Liam's thinking about me, like when I'm having a day. Like, you know, sometimes you just want to pick a fight and you don't know why, but like you just do. And sometimes I do that, and I can just see Liam thinking this quote exactly. Like, "Becca, you are such a difficult creature."
Husbands are probably like, yes.
Exactly. Now, he's such a good husband, though, and he just like gives me a big hug and wraps me up and whatever and loves me well when I'm having one of those days. But I'm sure this is what's going on in his brain.
They're probably like, "Oh, I love you," but my goodness.
Exactly. So then when she runs into the cart guy looks at Paedyn and his eyes soften, and then Kai gets all jealous, which, my guy, you can't have her, but you don't want anybody else to have her. That's just not a great look. Like,
Freaking Kai.
I know. And he like steps up and is like, she's taken, blah, blah,
He's
blah, blah. And it's
like Nick Jonas and Jealous. I'm
exactly.
puffing my chest.
Okay, so once they get into the inn, they have to climb into the window of the room to avoid any prying eyes. How on earth they got into this room, I have no idea. We're going back to the chain again. So my leg, I literally measured this because I was like, this is insane. My leg from my hip bone, now I have long legs, but from my hip bone to the ground is 3 feet long. It's literally exactly 36 inches. So if I was tied to anyone, I wouldn't be able to lift them up and get them into the room at all. Like,
Yeah.
and I, like, I just,
The whole thing
I
didn't
can't.
make sense.
Doesn't make sense. And then let's talk about the bath situation. So Kai sits
I just
outside.
pretended they were not chained this entire time because I could not like mentally process this.
Right? So Kai sits outside the door while she's in the bath. I don't understand how she even gets in the bath because the tub can't be right on the other side of the door. So, like, in our master bath, our door opens and then behind the door is our like shower tub area. So like even in our like bath, which is like a relatively close shower tub area, like if somebody was chained on one side of the door and then like somebody else was bathing, like that's more than 3 feet. Like I just don't understand how that happened. So I just need the chain to be like 2 feet longer. If it was 5 feet, I could literally understand just about everything that happened. Even like 4 feet, I think I could get behind.
Yeah.
But 3 feet is just like,
it's not a lot.
Not a lot.
Not a good look.
So while she's bathing, Kai asks why Paedyn saved him, and she gives him the quote, "I couldn't let myself take another life," instead of "I care for you and I didn't want to lose you," which was like the true reason, if we're being honest. So typical Paedyn fighting her emotions.
I mean, I don't blame her for not telling.
Oh, I don't either, because she's betrayed.
She just got, isn't there like a show that's like, you got scammed or I don't know, something like that. You got
I know what you're talking about. It's not scammed. I don't remember what it is,
it's
though.
like something like that. Like you got tricked or like something like that.
Is it you got punked?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Punked. Basically. That's Paedyn.
Yeah, exactly. So Kai finds her notebook and he starts to apologize about basically everything from 5 years ago with killing her dad to 20 seconds ago when he chained her foot. And she asks him to not apologize, to make him seem less human. And he just like understands, right? He's like, this is why she asked me not to. And I wonder how often he like did that when he was carrying out orders for his father. Like, do not speak. Like, I don't want you to speak. I'm here to deliver a message and you are my mission. But like, that's all. Like, I don't want you to talk to me because that's going to hurt even further, you know? Mm-hmm. So we get another one room, one bed trope, and Keri is here for it.
I was here for it. Despite the betrayal, I was here for it.
I just imagined you internally screaming when Kai says, quote, "I have no problem sleeping beside you."
A little bit.
And when Paedyn is shivering because it's so cold, which I'm unsure when this happened because it's supposed to be ridiculously hot indoor. Like,
doesn't the desert get like cold at night? Like super, super hot in the day and then like super, super cold.
Maybe you're right. You're probably right. Yeah.
I don't know anything about deserts, so don't quote me on that.
No, you're probably right. So Paedyn is shivering and Kai cuddles up to her and assures her that it's best for everyone. And we get, quote, "Just pretend not to hate each other in these moments, remember?" I open my mouth to object, but the arm he circles around my waist has me snapping it shut. Quote, "All this means is that we're useful to another." And that hurts Paedyn so bad. Mm-hmm. But she's not going to say that.
Of course not.
But she's like, it stings. Like, my heart stings. And I'm like, same.
Like, we're so mad.
Okay, and then the next morning, we learn that Kai's plan is to go back to Ilya through the Sanctuary of Souls, which I was going to do a magical moments on today, but we didn't get a ton of information, so we'll have to do it the next time. And then he saw and heard Paedyn. We also learned that he saw and heard Paedyn when Adina died. Moment of silence for Adina. And then they're off running from the inn because they got caught. So we learn a couple different things there. And then they're pretending again when they're running away. They go down an alley and they're pretending, and Kai's kissing Paedyn like a lovesick couple, and it's affecting Paedyn so much here. But at the end, Kai is like, he has his mask on, and she's like, oh, well, if it's not going to affect him, it's not going to affect me. And so she puts on her mask again, and they're off, and that's the end of chapter 30.
And we know that, like, Kai definitely could have had another plan, but he wanted to do that.
Oh, 100%.
Like, Paedyn, come on. It was a good plan,
100%.
but, like, he wanted to do it. He wanted that to be the plan.
All I can think about is, did you watch Avengers Civil War? Or Captain America Civil War?
Yeah, but it's been a long time.
So when Steve Rogers, who is also Captain America, played by Chris Evans, and Natasha Romanoff, who is also Black Widow, played by Scarlett Johansson, they're like running away from somebody, and they're like on an elevator in a mall, and Natasha turns around and is like, Steve, kiss me. And he's like, what? And she's like, public displays of affection make people uncomfortable. Kiss me. And they kiss, and then the people just like run right by them. It gave the same vibes here.
That's amazing. I need to watch that movie again.
So good. We got a lot of Marvel updates recently.
Wait, like, because of Deadpool?
No. Like updates about like movies coming out and who's playing things.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that?
The Doom one.
Really?
I don't like it. I also don't really like the whatever metaverse, megaverse.
Oh, you don't?
Whatever it's called.
I love it. I am here for it.
I cannot keep track. It's too much.
So it's interesting because in the comics, there's actually a storyline where in another universe, Tony Stark becomes Doctor Doom. So it like makes sense.
I know it's gonna like break our hearts too when Spider-Man, Peter Parker sees him.
I know.
And it's not Tony Stark, it's Doctor Doom. I just can't. It's too much.
Yeah, it's gonna be a sad time.
Anyways, back to Reckless. So good. Yeah, so we have a Tones and Tonics because we had a meet cute. So we're going to do Meredith, who is Lenny's mom again. So I just chose a simple hot coffee with vanilla and cream. I think she would like something a little sweet, but a little direct. And hot coffee would be easy to make in camp as she travels. So I think she would drink plain hot coffee if she didn't have any vanilla or cream made. But what'd you pick for her?
Smart. I said caramel sleepy time tea with honey and a splash of milk.
That's a good one. She'd probably need something to relax her after a long day.
Well, I just feel like that's like, I don't know if it's, I probably should have said something different because I don't know if this is her drink or if it's like, this is like the vibe she gives off, you know, because she's like calming and like gives the like Lenny and Lena and Finn and Paedyn and Kai a place to rest, and she like takes in the people, like the percentages.
I like that. No, I like that explanation a lot better.
Yeah, but I like yours because this really is like, what would they drink? And I think yours is probably more accurate.
No, because I feel like they're vibes. We've done that before.
That's true. So on to our magical moments. Speaking of Meredith, we learn about partial slash percentages. So they are the outcome of ordinaries and elites, so they only have partial powers. They're not strong enough to pass as elites to live in Ilya, and they're not able to live in other cities because of the power they do possess. Now, it's interesting here that they are like in Ilya, it means death for them, but in other cities, it's just hatred. So like like obviously other cities are better, but it's still like they're outcasts no matter where they go, which is kind of sad.
Yeah.
So we did see 3 partials, right? So we saw Luna, who has fingers that flicker with a flame, but not her whole body. And we do get confirmation that she is probably like at the end of a long line of mixes. So that's why just her fingers kind of flare up instead of like her hand or her arms or anything like that. We also meet a partial burner who
Little
has to
dragon.
cup. Say that again?
Little dragon. Lenny's like little sister girl.
Oh, that was the fingers that flicker with flame.
Oh, I thought it was she was the
No,
cup
that's
one.
the guy. Yeah, the guy steps
okay.
up.
My bad.
No, that's
Sorry.
okay. That's okay. Yeah, so the guy, he's a partial burner and he has to cup his hands to produce a flame. And then we get a partial veil where only their arms can disappear, which is kind of unfortunate, but also like could be kind of cool. Like imagine if Paedyn had an arm that could disappear. Like she could steal super easily because nobody would see it. So anyways, so like I was talking about with Luna, there are long lines of mixes and the percentage slowly gets less and less as you go down the line, right? So if mixes procreate with mixes, then the child is going to have a lower percentage of power too. What's interesting though is Kai can feel the difference in power, like it can feel that it's not as strong, which I don't remember if we kept it in the podcast or not. But a while back we talked about how like there are potentially powers that are stronger than others. And I think like this is probably where that initially came from, is there are powers that are stronger than others, but it's percentages. It doesn't really have to do with like the person themselves. We also did get an answer to one of my questions about elite children. So we had talked about before, like we didn't know when powers manifested and what that looked like. We did get confirmation that the elite children, it seems to not manifest as babies. They seem to be a little bit older, but they cannot control their powers when they're children. So like little kids who are burners are like covered in flames, which literally Jack. So
yeah.
But yeah, so that was kind of fun to learn too. So we learned a lot about different magics in this section. Was there anything I missed?
No. We just watched we were watching a show on Prime, I think. I forget the name of it, but it's like where heroes are like bad.
Is it The Boys?
Guys. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Super funny show.
Really?
I love it. But
I haven't watched it yet.
Yeah, if you guys are Marvel fans, I think you would like it. But there was a baby that could not control its powers. And it was like shooting laser beams, and we just watched this episode last night. So awesome. Super funny. I could just imagine that.
That's sorry.
Just really funny.
That's okay. But yeah, so that's our magical moments. But thank you so much for listening to us today. If you liked today's episode, please rate and review us wherever you listen and give us 5 stars. If you're on Spotify, we would love for you to rate us on Spotify. Please do. Please let us know how amazing you think we are and which section of the podcast you like the most, whether it's our one-sentence summaries, our quotables, our magical moments, our tomes and tonics. What section do you like the most? We want to know. If you're watching us on YouTube, please like this video and subscribe to our channel to get notified of all of our episodes. Also, the best thing you can do for us or any other podcast you listen to is share us with your friends. We're so enjoying our trip through Reckless and want you to join us and come along.
Yeah, and for more content, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Tomes and Tropes Pod. Or if you have thoughts about this episode or this book, email us at tomesandtropespod@gmail.com or send us a DM. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Reckless so far, and we'll see you next week when we go into chapters 31 through 40.
Stay curious and keep reading.
Bye.
Bye.